Thank you for checking out this little teaser of the history of the papacy and church. Here's a little taste of what's coming up soon on the History of the Papacy podcast. Now, if you like what you hear, I'd love it if you'd leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. If you want to support the podcast even more, consider becoming a Patreon on patreon.com/history of the papacy. There are many levels and benefits for you, and you help keep the history of the papacy going. You can learn more about all of this at historyofthepapacypodcast.com. With that, here's another piece of the mosaic of the popes of Rome and Christian church, and I will definitely be talking to you more soon.
Well, yeah, that's right. So when the Vandals are finally defeated, it's the emperor coming from, we call it the Byzantine Empire now, but they call themselves Romans, but they're coming from Constantinople, and they're very Greek now. That's right. And so there's suddenly this new sort of imposition of at least cultural influence. I mean, they're welcomed, right? They're the Christians and the Orthodox party. So what you see is sort of what some scholars have tried to call a Donatist attitude in North Africa. Again, I think that's too simplistic, but it's still worth it considering, because you have sort of emperors meddling in church affairs, right? And there's something called the Three Chapters controversy, where these writers who are long dead are being denounced as heretics. And the Bishop of Rome finally even capitulates to this and allows it, and the North African writers are adamant they're not going to concede to this. And it's still what's comparable to the Donatists, at least, is sort of this sort of strident independence that the North African Christians had. They do not think the emperor has the right to tell the church what to do. And then, of course, it goes on. I mean, you have in the 600s these letters that suddenly pop up from Pope Gregory, who's concerned that the Donatists are back. And this baffles scholars because the Donatists haven't been named for over a century, except what's happening is these North African bishops are meeting independently. They're not following the Roman tradition of how you do a sort of appeal process. They're appointing their own bishops. They're passing around who's the primate of the area. So there's these unique North African features that to a Roman pope look like Donatism revived. Most scholars think that's a misunderstanding on Gregory's part. They're not actual Donatists. They're just continuing to do what North Africans have always done, which again goes back to how you define that early debate. I don't think they should be called They didn't call themselves Donatists. They just called themselves Christians. And so there is sort of this family line of inheritance that's still around. It's just not really a formal line of the Donatist party in schism from the Catholic party.